She is known as the Manhattan Madam, and her clients were some of the richest and most powerful people in the country, including a former governor of New York.
Growing up, my mother was a very hard worker, very independent. I learned my work ethic from her. I was valedictorian of my high school at age 15. I was a little bit of a nerd, yeah. After graduating from high school, I got a job as a trading assistant at a hedge fund. What made me successful in finance is that I did the things nobody wanted to do. So I made a name for myself very quickly.
At one time you were?
In hedge funds.
Yeah. What's amazing transformation?
It was a business decision.
It was then that Davis became interested in the economics of sex. Before the age of 28, Davis built the most successful escort service in history, supplying gorgeous girls at rates from $1,000 to $3,000 per hour to corporate titans, Wall Street moguls, diplomats, star athletes, and movie stars.
It wasn't until I, got out of jail and I started clearing up some of the misconceptions about me that people realized that I was smart, that I had a background in business, and that the industry that I was involved in was something I chose based on economics. There's very few industries where a woman can make more than a man. One day I was reading in the paper about Eliot Spitzer as Attorney General arresting a string of different agencies. And I was reading about how much money they had.
A supply call goes for him both as Attorney General and Governor. So, the issue with him is hypocrisy.
All of a sudden, I came into work one day. I walked in, I'm in a suit. I'm vice president of this hedge fund. They called me into the conference room, and you are fired. I realized that I had posted the night before for her ad for Craigslist escorts. Okay, I'm converting my apartment, and we're opening next week in my apartment. I've always looked at this as an empowerment for women, and you don't force them to do anything. You allow them to make your own boundaries and to set their own rules. Eliot Spitzer first became a client at the Corinthian. I didn't know who he was. He was Attorney General at that time. I didn't find out who Eliot Spitzer was until years later. A girl that had just seen him called me and said, I just saw that client that you booked for me on the cover of the Post. He's the governor. March 25th, 2008, I was taken to Rikers Island.
Upon arraignment, the district attorney asked for a $10 million bail for a first-time offender charged with a non-violent, victimless crime.
I was in Rikers for 3.5 months. I had an ankle bracelet and forfeiture of all but $25,000 of my assets. I go weekly to sex offender therapy with a bunch of men who are serial rapists, pedophiles, and I also go weekly to see my probation officer.
Spitzer, who violated both federal money laundering laws and the Mann Act, which prohibits transporting a woman across state lines to engage in acts of prostitution, went uncharged and unpunished.
There shouldn't be different standards for the political class than there are for the average citizen.
The Manhattan Madam, Kristin Davis, announced today that she's running for governor.
Tell me about your platform.
My platform is the legalization, taxation, and regulation of marijuana, prostitution, and the legalization of gay marriage.
Now, having paid her debt to society, Kristin Davis is back to expose the inequalities in our criminal justice system, which favors the rich and privileged over women, minorities, and the poor, and to speak up for prison reform, women's rights, and the corruption and hypocrisy in our government.
Back here in the United States, it's sex and politics. They seem to go hand in hand, at least in the state of New York.
New York Governor David Paterson is facing increasing pressure from state Democrats to defend his actions or resign in the wake of allegations that he may have used his authority to influence a domestic violence case involving one of his top aides.
The beauty in me is that I'm honest. Everything that's been said about me has already come out.
Now, you're saying that legalizing prostitution and marijuana will fix the budget problems. How does that work? Tell me.
Well, legalizing on both counts will bring in about $3 billion in new revenues to the state. And what we need is a plan for new revenues, not increased taxes on New Yorkers that are already suffering. The people that we have in office now are imbeciles. Look at what they've done to the state. We have a $7+ billion budget deficit, the highest income and property taxes in the nation. Obviously, the people that are supposed to know what they're doing don't. So let's pursue something else.
You know what? You might have my vote, Kristin.
Yay.
And thanks very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.